Hello, guys. Thank you very much for joining in. Hi, this is Ganesh Naik. I help finance professionals and students to excel in their career and become a better version of themselves. And I also help students preparing for the FRM and CFA exam. I have with me one of my students who's been able to clear FRM level 1 in this November 2021 2022 attempt. His name is Pratyush. Pratyush, thank you very much for joining in and talking to us and taking out time. If you can tell the audience for the benefit of them that when you decided to start the FRM preparation, what was your status? What were you doing? Okay, and when did you give the exam, and how was the exam at a broader level, basically? And then I'll start asking you questions also.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for having me today. So my name is Pratyush, and I've completed my BCom honors from Hansraj College, University of Delhi. I am a graduate of batch of 2020. After that, I worked in a financial services firm for a year, and I quit my job and I've joined my family business during the lockdown. And it was in the month of November 2021 when I started working with my family in the family business domain. And I was pursuing CFA back then. I started with CFA. I gave my level 1 in November only. I gave my level 2 in September, and after that I decided to go for November. The September 2022 I appeared for level 2, and after that I
Hmm.
decided to appear for FRM part 1, which was in November, like 2.5 months after that. And the journey for
Okay.
FRM, it started right after CFA only. Like I had no plans to give any other paper in that duration. I was like, I just want to get done with this what particular one area, one designation. But I got to know about, I before I did not really know about FRM. I did not really um, research about it, but someone told me that this is something that you would really like. Someone who knew me is like कि तू थोड़ा finance में देख सकता है. And I
Okay.
researched about this course. I read the curriculum, and I was really intrigued. And
Hmm.
it was actually something that I wanted to read just to gain knowledge. But then I was like, ठीक है, degree भी मिल जाएगी तो plus ही है
Okay.
अपने लिए तो. Right.
So when did you started your preparation for FRM level 1?
I started in the month of September, second week of September.
Second week of, so immediately after your CFA level 2 exam.
Yeah, my paper was on 2nd September, and I started around like after 10 to 12 days, like around 14th, I started with my preparation.
Okay. And how much time you were giving after that?
For
Every
FRM,
single
like
day.
my paper,
Ah.
right? So my paper was in November 18th, like it was on the later stage. And I found your videos online, YouTube. You gave a very thorough analysis, and you talked very sensibly about how to approach the exam, what we need to do. And I had a word with you. And I, first of all, the first question I asked you was that, is it doable given that I only have two months approx? I still remember that I had like exact 63 days when I had this word with you, and I was like, hey, yeah, 63 days है sir, आप बताओ कि हो पाएगा या नहीं. एंड आपने बहुत नॉर्मली बोला कि अभी तुम पढ़ पाओगे फुल टाइम. मैंने बोला हाँ, आई कैन डू दैट. आई कैन मैनेज माय वर्कलोड अकॉर्डिंगली. आई डोंट हैव टू वर्क दैट मच. आई कैन टेक अ सबैटिकल फॉर सम टाइम. एंड यू लाइक, हो जाएगा, दैट्स नॉट एन इशू. जस्ट you need to be consistent with the approach, and you need to follow this you gave me a timeline. This timeline you need to follow. These are the
Hmm.
chapters you need to do, these much chapters every day. And प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगी, आराम से कर लोगे, मॉक्स भी आराम से दे दोगे, क्वेश्चंस भी कर पाओगे, एंड सब डुएबल है. And when you told me the entire plan, I was like, हाँ, ऐसा नहीं, it's not that difficult to follow it. It's just you need to be very consistent and
Hmm.
hardworking throughout the journey. And the perseverance, it was already there, given that I had already appeared for a paper. So I knew I can give in that a much amount of time per day, per chapter, and I can finish it up without slacking off. So earlier,
Okay.
what I used to do, like you told me that I have to do 2 chapters a day, and that's exactly the kind of policy that I had. कि मुझे दिन में 2 chapters करना है. I did not look at कि कितना number of hours मैं पढ़ूंगा. मेरा objective था I need to complete 2 chapters, and
Right.
of the total 60 chapters, my plan was to get done with the entire course once, in the next 20 to 25 days, because there were so
Hmm.
many chapters that were overlapping as well with my CFA curriculum. So I was like,
Right.
I did not have to read a lot, or I don't have to go in depth in those chapters, because I've already covered them beforehand. So
Right.
I started with the timeline that you gave me, and I started with book 2. That was more of something that was very familiar to me, and I was like, ये हो जाएगा अभी. And
Hmm.
I used to start like 2 chapters daily के करता था, one in the morning, one in the evening. And
Hmm.
I used to solve questions right after that, because firstly, that your videos, they were very thorough, and I think so they were more than enough to, I mean, your videos while reading Schweizer and making my own notes were more than enough for me to understand the complete basic, as well as, not to think twice about that chapter or get confused about certain chapters, because everything was covered in great detail. And that's the
Okay.
exact kind of strategy that I followed. And I was, luckily enough, I was able to, just continue studying for the next 20-25 days, and I was able to reach all the goals that I had set for myself. I was able to achieve all of them. And
Okay.
after 25 days, I was like, once ek baar course ho gaya, and
You had
the
completed
time is
reading. You have completed reading. You have completed watching in 25 days, and also
right.
solving of the chapter-wise questions.
So I mean, usme I mostly I tried to, but I mean, the thing is that एक chapter ko on an average I used to wake up by 4:30 every morning. I used to start with one chapter early because I'm an early riser, so that's not an issue for me. I used to do one chapter. It used to take me around 3.5 hours to just go through the entire reading and understand it. And after that,
Right.
I used to give some time. On the same day, I was like, I will have to solve certain number of questions, if not the entire question bank for that particular chapter. I need to solve certain number of questions so as to understand
Hmm.
how much of the chapter do I know from the exam perspective, not just from the concept perspective. And
Okay.
that's the same strategy I followed in the afternoon. That one chapter I did in the morning, one after, like, late evening. एंड वन थिंग दैट आई लाइक ऑलवेज, कि अगर किसी दिन मेरा मूड नहीं होता पढ़ने का, कि मेरा नहीं हो रहा मूड कि मैं 2 चैप्टर नहीं कर सकता, आई स्टिल उस दिन मैं आई यूज्ड टू ट्राई कि मैं 1 चैप्टर तो कर ही लूं, इफ नॉट 2 चैप्टर्स. एंड आई
Okay.
यूज्ड टू फोकस ऑन एक्टिव रिविजन व्हिच रियली हेल्प्ड मी थ्रू आउट. So like before sleeping from 9 to 10, that 1 hour I used to take up one chapter. And the policy, like this rule I had for myself, that the chapter should not be the one that I had studied on that particular day or a day before. It should be a chapter I've done and it's been 4-5 days. I used to just take
Okay.
that chapter up and just go through it again and again and again and again. So in those 25 days, I was able to complete the entire reading as well as do certain portion of revision, which I don't even know कि वो बस होता गया, like उसका कोई calculation नहीं
समझा.
था, वो
Okay.
randomly जो मुझे पसंद आता था मैं कर लेता था उस पे.
So on an average, how much time you were giving on a daily basis? 5 hours?
I no, for more than 5, definitely more than 5. I think so. Like though readings ki videos plus questions, like from morning, I remember I used to start by 4:30 every morning, and I used to get up done with the chapter for my breakfast, which was around 9 only. So I mean, if
Oh,
I'm talking about efficiently studying, I'd say around 4 hours in the morning itself, and the same 4 hours in the afternoon, like in the noon
okay.
time or late evening. And that does not include my revision time. These are just the chapters. That revision is the
Okay. So
added bonus,
roughly,
which I did not
roughly nine
consider as
hours.
study.
Roughly nine
Right,
hours is
around
what
9 hours. Right,
we can
9
think.
hours.
Okay. And then, uh, so you completed one reading by mid of October. Am I correct?
Right, right,
Then
right,
after
right.
that, what was the strategy? What were you doing?
So I am, again, I just said that I am not someone who can just go through chapters. I can just go through them again and again and just understand. What I used to have was, the day I registered for the exam, you created a group on Telegram, you created a group, and there were people who were solving doubts. I just reached
Hmm.
out to some people, and I was like, yeah, I'm looking for a person like me who's willing to, study together for the examination that's happening in November. And anyone
Okay.
who's willingly, actively looking to participate, just hit me up. And I was lucky enough that I got certain replies to that particular message. I had a word with a few of them, and I found 2-3 study buddies with me. So the purpose of this entire the kind of situation was that I would want to have a group of people with whom we can, just study together, discuss questions, discuss concepts, and just be more of like a brainstorming session, wherein if one, because the thing is, if I follow the entire course, I will follow it in only one direction, because that's exactly how I
Hmm.
perceive it to be. But I would want some people others ideas as well. I mean, how do they look at that situation, how do they think of that concept? And that really helped out a lot. So that's the kind of approach I had. Like after I was done with at least one time the entire course, I used to have these conversations with people, and I used to have them on daily basis, like half an hour, 1 hour per person, and we used to have this like
Hmm.
a viva session, wherein we would just ask each other random questions about random concepts, random topics, and it could be from any
Okay.
chapter. So that really helped me, because you have to think from all angles, from all chapters, and now you do not have an approach, given that you've already gone through the entire concept once. And it
Right.
also, kahin na kahin, if you have left something in between that you did not even know, वो भी पता चल जाता था because of these questions that I had. So the next 1 month, my approach was to just brush up the topics once more, go through the questions as much as possible, and I did slack off for 5 to 7 days in between, kind of, because I was a little burnt out because it's been a long time since I was studying. But even on those days, I used to have those calls with people so that I was just discussing concepts and having normal conversations about what else I can look out, or what is interesting, what is
Okay,
different that one has to look out for. So that was my
got it.
kind of approach for the last 1 month.
Okay, and when did you start? Did you solve the sectional test?
I did not.
You did not. Okay, and mock papers?
Sorry.
Okay, you said you did not solve the sectional test, but did you
Right.
get time to solve the mock papers?
Right. So, sectional tests, I did not solve like tests. I solved them like question bank only. Like I was
Okay,
not going to, because I knew that I had less time. So I was not able to, I might not be able to perform well. And I did not want that to affect my preparation as well. So I just took those tests, but did not look at them as like from a test perspective. I was like, yeah,
got
I'll
it.
think of it like only a question bank, an additional question bank. So that's the way I went with the sectional test, but I did not go through all of them. Like I tried to solve some of them. I don't remember which chapters or which sections I did, but I tried to. But mocks I gave in the last 1 week, I was prepared enough. I felt like I could go for 2 or 3 mocks, and I gave two,
Hmm.
3 mocks.
What was the score? And you were sitting
I
for the
was
entire 4 hours, right?
right. I was sitting for the entire 4 hours. So the first 2 mocks I gave, I got a score of around between 60 to 65, and
Okay, okay.
the next 2 mocks again, I was like, I expect, because I took some break after those 2 mocks. I was like, I'll just go through, I'll brush up some topics which I felt were weaker, and I'll just go through the mocks again. And
Hmm.
the score did not change. It was again between 60 to 65. So I had a word with you. I told you that my score is not changing. I'm whatever mock I'm appearing for, I think so it's stuck somewhere there. And you said, bus up, focus more on reading books and revising rather than on mocks, and bas ho jayega, koi issue ki baat nahi. It's a good score, not bad. So I was like,
Hmm.
theek hai, I'll get
Okay,
that
now
score.
when you went to the exam, what happened in that first 1 hour? And how is it? How
So
was it different
right.
from your previous exam experience of CFA and all?
Definitely, FRM was a different ball game altogether. I knew this because first of all, my exam was on the later stage, and there were
Hmm.
so many people who had already appeared for the examination before me. So they were discussing on, like, on your groups, we were discussing about the way the exam had to be approached, and people had mentioned that theory ज़्यादा आ रहा है, practical कम हो रहा है. And
Hmm.
I was really hoping कि थोड़ा practical aspect पूछे, because वो strong था मेरा. तो
Hmm.
आई वाज
Hmm.
लाइक यार, ये मैं कर सकूं, बिकॉज सीएफए में ऑलमोस्ट ऑलमोस्ट ये सारी चीजें मैंने कर रखी थी. एंड थ्योरी वाज समथिंग जिसमें कोई भरोसा नहीं, वो कुछ भी उठ के आ सकती है. मैं
Hmm.
एग्जाम में द फर्स्ट आवर आई वेंट, आई वाज वेरी ऑप्टिमिस्टिक. आई वाज लाइक कि आता हो नहीं आता हो, अपन खुशी खुशी सारे आंसर करेंगे, कोई इशू की बात नहीं, निकलेगा.
Hmm. Hmm.
सोचना नहीं है 2 बार और कहीं पे भी निकलेगा, बस करते जाओ अच्छे से. द फर्स्ट आवर आई सैट डाउन, आई वाज लाइक आई विल फर्स्ट गो थ्रू ऑल द प्रैक्टिकल क्वेश्चंस. आई विल लाइक कि जो मेरा स्ट्रॉन्ग पॉइंट है पहले वो कवर हो जाए, ताकि बाद में फिर बाकी में अपन एडजस्ट कर लेंगे अकॉर्डिंग टू जो भी अपने को चाहिए.
Hmm. Hmm.
सो द फर्स्ट आवर आई वाज जस्ट स्किमिंग थ्रू क्वेश्चंस, स्कैनिंग देम, एंड आई वाज लाइक कि जो जो मुझे प्रैक्टिकल दिख रहा है मैं पहले वो अटेम्प्ट करते जा रहा हूँ.
Got it.
एंड लकीली वो सारे डुएबल थे, बिकॉज कॉन्सेप्ट्स तो क्लियर थे. तो उस चक्कर में वो सारे मैंने, लाइक इन द वन फर्स्ट आवर, आई वाज डन विद मोस्ट ऑफ द प्रैक्टिकल क्वेश्चंस एज वेल एज सम थ्योरी क्वेश्चंस व्हिच आई वाज वेरी कॉन्फिडेंट अबाउट. एंड
Hmm.
आफ्टर दैट आई टुक द अप्रोच टुवर्ड्स द अदर क्वेश्चंस इन जनरल.
Okay. Okay. Now, how much was the theory and how much was the calculation in your exam? Roughly?
I'll say that there were approximately just 20 question, maybe 20
Okay.
question, not even 20, less than 20 were practical. The other were
And
rest theory.
what was the performance in the in those 20 questions? Were you able to solve everything properly?
I was able to solve most of them, because one thing was sure, that those questions were not very tricky. Like they were tricky, but not as tricky as I thought they could have been. And
Hmm.
the question bank that you had provided, I was already prepared with the practical aspect. कि I knew कि किस type के question बन सकते हैं, and I was able to do well, perform well according to my
Got it.
calculation. Right.
Okay. And with respect to the theory question, you found specific questions where you felt, okay, this is something out of Swayze?
In theory, although
Okay.
so many questions, I was like कि ये तो फर्स्ट बुक के तो क्वेश्चन ही नहीं दिख रहे थे मुझे, या तो मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहे थे वो फर्स्ट बुक के हैं या मुझे दिख नहीं रहे थे. Exactly the kind of
Okay.
experience I had during that exam, because for some reason, like book one सब कहते हैं it's a lighter book compared to the other three books.
Most
I
underestimated book.
thought it was, आई थिंक वो ना दैट्स दी, वो जो छोटी छोटी नाइफ नहीं होती, दैट्स द डेडलीस्ट कंपेयर टू द अदर थ्री. दैट्स एग्जैक्टली व्हाट आई फेल्ट, दैट इज अ डैगर. बिकॉज इफ यू डोंट प्रिपेयर इट वेल, दैट एग्जैक्टली व्हाट आई फेल्ट, कि देयर आर सो मेनी क्वेश्चंस इन थ्योरी जो आई वाज नॉट एबल टू रिकॉग्नाइज, and I was just solving them, attempting them based on, like I was making educated guesses. I was just solving them based on what I felt was the right answer. मतलब मेरे को ऐसा लग रहा था कहीं तो जीके यूज हो रही है मेरी, लॉजिक यूज हो रहा है, नॉट जस्ट द कोर्स दैट्स बीन टेस्टेड. सो
Mm-hmm.
दैट्स दी ऑल, मतलब पूरा एक, मतलब एग्जैक्टली एग्जाम के अंदर ऐसा माहौल से ही सेट हो गया था, मेरे को समझ में आ गया सिचुएशन, बिकॉज द थिंग इज क्वेश्चंस आर वेरी लॉन्ग, एंड उसको पूरा पढ़ो, उसके बाद उसको समझो, एंड पढ़ने के बाद रियलाइज हो ये तो आता ही नहीं है. तो मैंने बोला अगले क्वेश्चन पे टाइम कम देना पड़ेगा, तो ज्यादा स्किप भी करना पड़ेगा. So I was
So
like,
this
I
was this
have
was
to give
mostly
certain
with the
time.
level first book. Mostly with the first book.
Yeah. First book, like majorly I felt with the first book, but even on the theory aspect of other books as well, there were so many questions ki, like this one thing that I felt after I gave that exam was that it's not just about reading the curriculum and not just about understanding the concepts, it's about digging it deeper, understanding and talking and using them in different scenarios. You have to think from multiple aspects, you have to look at questions a lot, because कोई स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड क्वेश्चन नहीं था एग्जाम में. दैट्स व्हाट आई फेल. यू हैव टू थिंक उस कॉन्सेप्ट के बारे में मल्टीपल टाइम्स, एंड आई फील कि डोंट जस्ट, मतलब कुछ होता है कि लाइक सम पीपल दे गेट अ लिटिल ओवर कॉन्फिडेंट आफ्टर दे डन विद एवरीथिंग, बिकॉज you're done with the course now, what else you have to do? I mean, like, you just try to look at it from different angles, different aspects, and try to solve questions as much as possible, because that's something that's
Got
going
it.
to prepare you for the exam.
Okay, got it, got it. Now, when you came out of the exam, was there any number in your mind that okay, I've got this much correct?
I did not have a number. Honestly speaking, I don't even remember how my paper went, because I usually forget. Just after the paper, I usually forget whatever I appeared for. The only thing I remember are the questions that I'm 100% sure I did wrong. So that's a very bad thing. So that's why I did not have a number in mind. I was like, अब सोचना नहीं है, जो हो गया सो हो गया. अब
Okay.
result का wait करते हैं. But I was confident throughout the paper. ऐसा नहीं, even though if there were areas where I was lacking, but I knew कि ऐसा नहीं है कि it's not just me who found it difficult. It's just like the entire scene. Every student out there who I talked to, who had a word with, सबने एक ही चीज बोली थी, that paper is a little trickier as compared to
Hmm.
the mocks we've appeared for or the questions we've done. So that's the kind of approach I had.
Okay. Okay. Now, what was the quartile that you have got?
I got 2-1-2-2.
So, book two, you got very good quartiles, first quartile,
Right,
and rest everybody second quartile, every book,
right.
right? Now, if I ask you, anybody who's preparing for the exam and is coming to you and asking you, can you give me 3 tips to prepare for FRM level 1? What would be that 3 tips?
So 3 tips according to me, like the most important one is consistency. That this paper requires you to be consistent throughout. If you feel like slacking off, just remember, like there's this famous quote that I really which has really inspired me a lot, which is that if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. Just the important thing is you have to keep moving forward. So even on
Hmm.
days when you feel like you are not able to study, try to take out that particular half an hour, 1 hour, and just try to read certain chapters, do some questions, and keep doing that on a regular basis, because consistency is the key. पता भी नहीं चलेगा और कब पूरा कोर्स खत्म हो जाएगा, and that's exactly what consistency does.
Right.
Second, definitely what I feel is very important was that have that optimism. कि even when I started this preparation, a lot of
Hmm.
people told me that you need more time. This is not enough time to give to this paper.
Right.
You should study for longer. Like ये इतने महीने में क्यों दे रहा है, बाद में दे देना, next year दे देना. What's the hurry? And I was like, nahin, it is doable, because there are other people who have done it. And it's not just about the number of days, it's about the number of effective and efficient hours I can put in. And if I'm able to complete the objectives I set for myself daily, the goals. So I was
Hmm.
every day I used to morning, before I used to start with any chapter, I was like, हो जाएगा, बस आज के दो, टेक वन डे एट अ टाइम, आज का टारगेट पूरा
Right.
करो, नेक्स्ट टारगेट नेक्स्ट डे, अपने आप पता भी नहीं चलेगा एग्जाम तक आते आते, एंड यू विल बी डन विद एवरीथिंग एंड यू विल बी कॉन्फिडेंट थ्रू आउट, एंड सेम strategy you have to have during the paper, because the thing is, this is one review I got from one of my friends who appeared for this paper. Like, even he did not have a lot of preparation going into the paper, but what happened was that he panicked, basically, because a lot of questions are there which you haven't had seen before, and you haven't had time to read before. So if you panic in the exam, the questions जो आते हैं वो भी गलत हो जाएंगे, because तुम केस स्टडीज ढंग से नहीं पढ़ोगे. So it's very important कि पेपर के टाइम भी सोचो कि अपने लिए नहीं, सबके लिए डिफिकल्ट है, जस्ट अपना बेस्ट देना है, ट्राई
Right.
नॉट टू मिस क्वेश्चंस जो आते हैं, एटलीस्ट उनको तो श्योरिटी से सही करके आने हैं हमें.
Right.
And third जो मेरे लिए बहुत help करता है, and I think a lot of people can benefit from that, is have a study buddy, because those viva sessions that you have with them, if you feel like you want to explain something, if they explain something to you, उसके में, because I could actually feel in the exam कि कुछ क्वेश्चन थे, and वो हमने डिस्कस कर रखे थे concepts, and I did not remember Schweizer का material, I remembered the kind of conversation we had around that particular question,
Right.
and that helped me solving those questions, because a lot of questions are very very subjective, they're not exactly from the curriculum, like they're inspired by the curriculum, but it's not exactly. So that is why you have to know the concept thoroughly, and that for reason it's important to have a study buddy with you, and that helps you, like problem solving हो गई, mock paper हो गया, एक constant check हो गया, and एक healthy competition build करने के लिए भी help करता ही है. So that I think
Right.
so are the three most important tips for the exam.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And what has been the reaction of people around you now when the results are out? You have been able to clear the exam. Yes,
I
reaction.
mean, I remember that the conversation was going on your group कि result आने वाला है. मैंने बोला अभी नहीं आना चाहिए, अभी तो बिल्कुल नहीं आना चाहिए, खराब आएगा, मूड खराब हो जाएगा. Because I remember there was some occasion coming up, and I was very excited. I was going on a trip somewhere, and एकदम से you messaged Telegram पे, एकदम से बहुत सारे मैसेज आने लग गए, and I was like रिजल्ट ही आया होगा, अपन बोला अभी नहीं देखते, रात में आराम से देखूंगा, सब सो जाएंगे. बुरा भी हुआ तो एटलीस्ट आई विल स्लीप ऑन इट एंड आराम से बताऊंगा. I opened my result at 1 a.m. and मैंने बोला पास तो हो गया, बट ये हुआ कैसे? I was like, I did not look at quartile और ये, मैं सीधा था यार ये तो हो गया. I was actually a little shocked, and मैंने मेरे घर पे उनको धीरे धीरे, वो जैसे स्पाइडरमैन में कोट था कि एक्सपेक्ट डिसअपॉइंटमेंट एंड यू विल नेवर बी डिसअपॉइंटेड, मैं उन्होंने धीरे धीरे बता दिया था कि देखो नहीं हुआ, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं, अगली बार वापस दे सकते हैं. उनके दिमाग में फीड कर दिया था मैंने धीरे धीरे, बाई चांस कुछ प्रॉब्लम भी हो जाए तो अपन सेफर साइड पे रहे. बट जब क्लियर हुआ
Okay.
तो फिर ऑब्वियसली देयर फर्स्ट रिएक्शन वाज, तू बोलता क्यों है उल्टा, जब पता है तेरे को तेरा हो जाता है तो जस्ट बता दिया कर सीधा कि अच्छा गया है तेरा. बोला होप साई नहीं करनी होती, मैंने सीधा बोला कि होप साई नहीं करनी. अच्छा हुआ तो अच्छा है,
Right.
अच्छा रिएक्शन मिल ही रहा है मुझे. सो दे वर वेरी हैप्पी, लाइक माय पेरेंट्स, एवरीवन अराउंड, दे वर रियली हैप्पी. एंड इवन द
Wow.
क्वार्टाइल्स वर
Wonderful.
गुड. आई वाज लाइक ये भी एक्सपेक्ट नहीं कर रहा था मैं. आई मीन आई डोंट नो
हाँ,
क्या
two,
होता है.
1, 1, 2, 2 is very good.
फर्स्ट बुक तो
हाँ,
मतलब I'm not even kidding, it's been with a lot of people कि क्वेश्चन ही रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं हो रहे थे. इट वाज, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा था कि मैं कोई लॉजिक से ही कर रहा हूँ मोस्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस, बट वो
because
अच्छी,
they
लाइक
give
आई रियली
scenario
लाइक.
based questions. Scenario वाले थोड़े
राइट
देते हैं.
राइट राइट
So you
राइट
don't
राइट राइट
understand कि ये कौन से particular chapter का है, but वो
राइट
स्वेजर में ही
राइट.
घुस के वो लोग कोई पॉइंट निकाल के उसका सवाल पूछ रहा है.
एंड एक्चुअली आफ्टर द पेपर, वन बुक दैट आई कैन गो बैक टू एंड रीड अगेन इज बुक वन, बिकॉज उसमें इतने सारी केसेस दिए, इतनी क्राइसिस बताई है. दिस एक्चुअली वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग केस स्टडी, एंड आई रियली लव इट. So the book one is my favorite book. Like it's very love hate relationship मेरी उसके साथ. But ठीक है, I mean it worked out perfectly in the end.
Okay. Okay. No, wonderful. I mean, clearing an exam in roughly 63 days was not easy because
No, it was not.
obviously you had some background, but two very, very important things that you were able to do it. First of all, sitting for 9 hours, 10 hours on a daily basis is not easy. Even though you are free, you have to sit down and study and be in that mode. That is very, very important. And to stick with that, it's not 9 hours sitting one day. It is like 9 hours sitting for the entire 60
Yeah, you
days.
have to do. Like I'll add one more point to this, because होता क्या है, consistency और वो, like this word which is being thrown around a lot these days is burnout. कि
Hmm.
burnout बहुत जल्दी आ जाता है. है ना. सो आई बिलोंग फ्रॉम अ फैमिली ऑफ डॉक्टर्स, सो इनके लिए तो जो मैं 9 hours कर रहा हूँ वो तो उनके लिए बहुत छोटी चीज है. मतलब हम तो 5-5 6-6 साल तक करते थे. एंड दिस इज व्हाट आई लर्न फ्रॉम देम कि बर्नआउट इज समथिंग दैट वी क्रिएटेड फॉर आवरसेल्व्स व्हेन वी ओनली फोकस ऑन स्टडीज. You need to have at least one other thing that you need to focus on, be it your health, be it singing, be it art, so that you can relieve that stress. If you have that one activity that you can go to, rather than just Netflixing or going on Instagram for burn like cooling
समझा
for
समझा.
cooling off, that does not help you. It's like actually doing something that gives you happiness, that makes you happy, is very important. Because I used to go out for a run, like even before the exam, the last thing I did before sleeping was I went for a run of a 5 kilometer run. I went for that, and I was like, I would do this, and after that I'll sleep peacefully and go for the exam. Because that's what something that that keeps you going throughout the day.
Right,
So have
right.
that one additional thing right next to studies.
Wow, wonderful. And Pratyush, thank you very much. I mean, this conversation is going to be really motivating for people who feel that it is not possible to clear the exam in short period of time. You need proper planning, you need proper time dedication,
Right,
and more importantly, your motivation to clear the exam. So if you have all
right,
three of them, you would be
right.
able to clear this exam, and you're an example for it. And I think so. This conversation is going to motivate a lot of students who are going for the exam now.
I
So
really, I
thank you
really
very much.
hope so. I really hope so. Thank you so much for having me,
Thank
and
you.
thank you for helping me throughout the exam. I mean, it wouldn't have been possible without you, honestly. I mean,
Oh,
anyone who's out
thank you.
there trying to clear FRM, I would really suggest that you enroll for him, because Ganesh sir has helped me throughout immensely, and the kind of question bank and the kind of videos he has created. कहीं और देखने की मतलब a lot of people told me कि Bionic Turtle भी देख लो. I had this word with you, and आपका पहला रिएक्शन था, पहली बात तो टाइम भी नहीं है इतना, बट मेरा कर लो बहुत है. एंड दैट्स एग्जैक्टली व्हाट आई फेल्ट. आपके क्वेश्चंस बहुत थे, मुझे जरूरत भी नहीं पड़ी. आई डिड नॉट इवन हैव टू लुक एट दोस क्वेश्चंस, द अदर टाइप ऑफ तो
Okay.
दैट्स व्हाट आई एम सेइंग, दैट यू हैव अ वेरी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव सेट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस व्हिच रियली हेल्प मी थ्रू आउट द एग्जाम.
Thank you. And we are increasing now. The entire set हम लोग हर एक के लिए भी इंक्रीज कर रहे हैं. हर एक चैप्टर का और डाल
ओके.
रहे हैं. सेक्शनल टेस्ट अभी एक था, तो अभी मैं खुद ही हर एक बुक के लिए 4 सेक्शनल टेस्ट बना रहा हूँ. उसके बाद मॉक
कितने
पेपर्स और
क्वेश्चंस
3.
करेंगे लोग?
तो मतलब इतना दे दो कि आप करते रहो, सॉल्व करते रहो बस.
सामने
अभी
वाला सोचे ही ना, मतलब उसको और दिमाग ही, जब जब तक
आइडिया वो
दिमाग
है,
है तब
आइडिया
तो
वो है कि
पेपर ही
आपको
होगा.
आपको बाहर का थॉट ही नहीं है, आप उसी में. और अभी
सही
थ्योरी
बात.
ज्यादा बना रहा हूँ. So I'm making more of
अच्छा,
theory
हाँ.
questions.
which is very very nice, very nice. And one other thing आपके जो like one other thing that I really loved about you was the timeliness of your responses to our queries. कि usually जब भी ग्रुप्स पे queries आती थी, हम डाउट्स पोस्ट करते थे, बहुत जल्दी आप आंसर उनको करके बहुत इलेबोरेटिव वे में, एंड यूज्ड टू लुक एट एवरी क्वेरी. मतलब ऐसा कोई क्वेरी बीच में मिस आउट नहीं होता था, व्हिच आई रियली अप्रिशिएटेड कि कुछ भी हो. एंड यू नेवर मेड अस फील कि हम बहुत बेसिक क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हैं, बहुत ट्रिकी. बिकॉज कुछ कुछ क्वेश्चंस तो मैं एकदम बेसिक ही डालता था कि यार मुझे समझ नहीं आया, मे बी आई जस्ट वाज रशिंग थ्रू सम कॉन्सेप्ट, एंड यूज्ड टू जस्ट टेल कि नहीं नहीं इसका ये मतलब है, दिस इज व्हाट दे आर ट्राइंग टू सी इन दिस क्वेश्चन एंड ऑल, व्हिच आई रियली लाइक.
समझे.
That you did not make me feel dumb even when times when I was asking very 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 normal stupid questions. That was very good.
No, thank you
Right.
very much. Thank you very much, Pratyush, for your time.
Thank you so much.